Sir, the child is yours. The words didn't echo. They settled. Heavy. Final. Like something that had always been true, just waiting for me to hear it. I stood still. The city stretched beneath my penthouse windows, 50 floors of glass and steel separating me from everything real. New York never sleeps, they say, but in that moment, it felt like the entire city held its breath with me. 15 months. That's how long it had been since Olivia Bennett signed those papers without looking back. No fight, no tears, just a quiet, controlled goodbye that unsettled me more than any storm ever could. I remember thinking she would come back. They always do. Not because they love me, but because the world outside my shadow is colder than they expect. But Olivia didn't come back. She disappeared. No forwarding address. No calls. No trace. Until now. My grip tightened around the phone. Explain, I said, my voice steady, even as something unfamiliar shifted beneath my ribs. A pause on the other end. Then, we verified the records, sir. The timeline matches. The child, he's yours. Timeline. My mind didn't go to numbers. It went to moments. The last night she stayed. The way she lingered in the doorway like she was memorizing the room. The way her hand rested, just briefly, against her stomach when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't think anything of it then. I never thought I had to look closer. Because in my world, nothing important escapes my attention. Except her. Except this. I exhaled slowly, the sound barely audible in the silence of the room. Find her, I said. 2 words. That's all it took to set everything in motion. It always is. Information. Movement. Control. That's how I've built everything I own. But this didn't feel like control. This felt like something slipping through my fingers before I even knew I was holding it. I ended the call and walked toward the window, the glass cool beneath my fingertips. Somewhere out there, she had been living a life I knew nothing about, carrying something that belonged to me. No, not something. Someone. The thought didn't land all at once. It came in fragments. A child. My child. The word felt foreign. Dangerous in a way I couldn't define. Because power, I understand. Loyalty, I command. But this was different. This was something that couldn't be negotiated, bought, or controlled. A soft knock sounded behind me. I didn't turn. We've already started the search, my right hand said from the doorway. Efficient. Predictable. Safe. Good, I replied. My reflection stared back at me in the glass. Same man. Same suit. Same empire built on precision and silence. But my eyes, they didn't look the same. Because somewhere in this city, there was a boy who didn't know my name. And somehow, I already knew that was about to change everything. I did not sleep that night. Not because I could not, but because something in me refused to. I stood in the same place for what felt like hours, watching the city move like nothing had changed, while everything inside me shifted in silence. By sunrise, the reports began to come in. Clean, organized, efficient, just the way I trained them. Olivia Bennett had not vanished. She had erased herself. New name, new address, no social presence. Cash transactions. A life built to avoid attention. That alone told me everything I needed to know. She was not hiding from the world. She was hiding from mine. I sat at the long black table in my dining room, untouched coffee cooling beside me as I flipped through the file. A small apartment. Quiet neighborhood. No luxury. No security. Nothing that reflected the life she once lived beside me. My jaw tightened slightly. Olivia had never cared about wealth, but she understood safety. So why would she choose a place like that unless she believed it was the only way to stay invisible? Then I saw it. A photograph, taken from across the street, slightly blurred, but clear enough. A child standing beside her, maybe 4 years old. Small frame, dark hair, head tilted slightly as he looked up at her. My hand stopped moving. Something about the angle of his face pulled at me in a way I could not explain. I studied the image longer than I should have, memorizing it. Not because I needed to, because I wanted to. We can arrange a meeting, my right hand said carefully, standing a few feet away. He knew better than to interrupt my thoughts. But this was not a situation that followed normal rules. Nothing about this did. I leaned back slowly, eyes still on the photo. No, I said. The answer came. Faster than expected. Even to me. He hesitated. Sir. I set the file down with deliberate calm. If she went this far to disappear, she had a reason. My voice remained level, but there was something under it now. Not anger. Not control. Something sharper. I want to understand it before I take it apart. Silence filled the room for a moment. Then a quiet nod. He left without another word. I looked back at the photo. Olivia was smiling in it. Not the polite smile she used in public. Not the careful expression she wore when she stood beside me at events. This one was different. Softer. Real. I had not seen that smile in a long time. Maybe I never had. My gaze shifted to the boy again. There it was. Clearer now. In the eyes. In the way he stood. Not afraid. Not unsure. Just observant. Like he was already learning how the world worked without anyone explaining it to him. My reflection in the glass across the room caught my attention. For a second, I saw it. Not who I am, but who he might become. And that thought did something unexpected. It did not feel like control. It felt like responsibility. I exhaled slowly and picked up the photo again, holding it between my fingers like it could disappear if I was not careful. You hid him from me. I murmured under my breath, not sure if I was speaking to Olivia or to myself. Then quieter, almost unfamiliar in my own voice. Or maybe, you were protecting him from what I am. The city outside had fully awakened now. Cars moving, people rushing, life continuing. But somewhere in that quiet neighborhood, in that small apartment that did not belong in my world, a boy was growing up without knowing my name. And for the first time in years, I was not sure if I had been the one in control all along. I did not go to her right away. That would have been the old version of me. Direct, decisive, unstoppable. But this time I waited, not out of hesitation, but because something told me this was not a situation I could control by simply showing up. So I watched, from a distance, from the back seat of a black car parked across the street, engine running low, windows tinted just enough to keep me unseen. It was early morning when she stepped out of the building. Same posture, same quiet way of moving like she did not want to disturb the world around her. Olivia Bennett had not changed. Not really. But there was something new in the way she reached for the small hand beside her. Protective, instinctive, immediate. The boy walked next to her, his fingers loosely wrapped around hers, looking around with a calm curiosity that did not belong to someone his age. I studied him carefully. The way he observed everything without speaking much. The way his gaze lingered on details instead of people. It felt familiar. Too familiar. They stopped at the corner, waiting for the light to change. Olivia knelt down slightly, adjusting his jacket even though it was already straight. A small, unnecessary gesture. The kind you make when you just want an excuse to touch someone you love. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not pain. Not exactly. Something quieter. The light turned green. They crossed the street together. And for a second, the boy looked back. Not at her. Not at the street. At me. Directly through the tinted glass. My breath stilled. It was impossible. He could not see me. Not clearly. Not enough to know I was there. And yet, his eyes held that same still awareness I had seen in the photograph. Like he noticed things he was not supposed to notice. I leaned forward slightly, just enough to catch the full angle of his face before he turned back. There it was again. No doubt left. I had spent my entire life reading people, understanding them before they understood themselves. And in that moment, I did not need confirmation. I did not need a test. I knew. Sir, my driver said quietly, breaking the silence. I had not realized how long I had been staring. Do you want to proceed? I sat back slowly, my gaze still fixed on the now empty street. Proceed. Such a simple word. In my world, it meant action, control, resolution. But nothing about this felt simple. Because this was not a deal, not a problem to solve. This was a life that had grown in my absence. A life she had built without me. I closed my eyes for a brief second, letting the image settle in my mind. The way she looked at him. The way he looked at the world. Then I opened them again, sharper now, clear, decided. Follow them, I said quietly. Not as an order, not as a command, more like a step into something I could not fully define yet. The car moved smoothly into traffic, blending into the flow of the city. I kept my eyes forward, but my thoughts stayed behind. On that moment, on that look, on the way something inside me had shifted without permission. Because for the first time in years, I was not thinking about what I could take. I was thinking about what I had already lost without even knowing it. They did not go far. A small cafe on the corner, the kind of place most people would pass without noticing. Faded sign, 2 outdoor tables, the smell of cheap coffee drifting into the street. Olivia pushed the door open with her shoulder, her hand still holding his, and disappeared inside. I stayed in the car for a moment longer, watching the reflection in the glass window across the street. This was not my world. Not the polished marble floors or the quiet respect that followed me into every room. This was ordinary, simple, real, and somehow, that made it harder to step into. "Wait here," I said, already opening the door before my driver could respond. The bell above the cafe door chimed softly as I walked in. No one looked up at first. Just a few people with laptops, a couple talking quietly, a barista moving behind the counter with practiced routine. Then Olivia turned. It was not dramatic. No sudden movement. No shock in her posture. Just a stillness that spread through her like she had always known this moment would come. Her eyes found mine across the room, and everything else faded. 15 months disappeared in a single second. She looked the same, maybe a little more tired, maybe a little stronger, but still her. Still the only person who ever made me feel like I was not the most powerful one in the room. The boy sat beside her at a small table, legs swinging slightly above the floor, a half-finished cup of something warm in front of him. He looked up at me again, that same quiet awareness in his gaze, like he was measuring something he did not yet understand. I walked closer, slow, deliberate, every step calculated, and yet completely uncertain at the same time. Olivia did not move. She did not stand. She did not speak. She just watched me approach, her fingers resting lightly on the edge of the table, close enough to reach him if she needed to. "You found us," she said finally, her voice calm, steady, like this was just another conversation. Not a collision of two worlds. Not the moment everything changed. I stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the details. The faint shadows under her eyes. The way her hand shifted slightly toward the boy without her realizing it. "You were not hiding very well," I replied, my tone even, but softer than it should have been. Her lips pressed together, not quite a smile. "I was not hiding from the world," she said. A pause, then quieter, "just from you." The words landed without force, but they stayed. I glanced at the boy again. He was still watching me, not afraid, not confused, just present. "What is his name?" I asked, my voice lower now, almost careful. Olivia hesitated, just for a second, but I saw it. That instinct, that need to protect. Then she answered, "Ethan." The name settled in my mind like it had always belonged there. "Ethan." I nodded once, slowly, as if acknowledging something I had no right to claim yet. "Does he know?" I asked. Her gaze sharpened slightly. "Know what?" I held her eyes, steady, unyielding, even as something unfamiliar moved beneath the surface. "Who I am." Silence stretched between us. Not tense, not loud, just heavy with everything that had not been said for over a year. Then Olivia shook her head, small but firm. "No," she said, "and he does not need to." My gaze dropped to Ethan again. He was still looking at me, his expression unreadable, like he was waiting for something neither of us had figured out yet. And for the first time in my life, I did not have an immediate answer, because standing there, in a place that did not belong to me, looking at a life I had never been part of, I realized something I had never considered before. This was not about what I could take. This was about whether I deserved to be here at all. Olivia's words stayed between us long. After she said them, quiet but unmovable, like a line drawn in a place I was not used to seeing limits exist. And for a moment I said nothing, which in itself felt unfamiliar because silence had never been my strategy. Control had always filled every space before anything else could. But now I stood there with no immediate move, no clean solution, just the weight of a reality I had not been part of. And I let my gaze rest on Ethan again, taking in the small details I had missed before, the way his fingers tapped lightly against the table, not impatient, just thoughtful. The way his eyes moved between Olivia and me like he was trying to connect something invisible. And I realized he was not confused. He was aware, more aware than a child his age should be. And that realization settled deeper than anything Olivia had said. "You should not have come," she added softly, not as a warning, but as a truth she had already accepted. And I met her eyes again, steady, unflinching, even as something inside me shifted again, quieter this time, more controlled. "You should have told me," I replied, not accusing, just stating what could not be undone. Her expression did not break, but I saw it, the flicker, the memory behind her calm. "And what would you have done, Sebastian?" she asked, my name on her lips after all this time sounding different, heavier. Would you have made it safer? Or would you have made it impossible for him to ever have a normal life? I did not answer immediately, because for the first time, I did not have a version of the truth that worked in my favor. I only had the reality she had already lived through without me. And that silence said more than any response I could have given. Ethan shifted slightly in his chair, his gaze still on me, unafraid, just curious, like he was waiting for me to become something he could understand. And I took a slow breath before lowering myself into the empty chair across from them without asking, not to take control, not to assert anything, just to be closer. And that alone felt like a decision I had never made before. Olivia's hand moved instinctively toward Ethan again, resting lightly against his shoulder, grounding him, grounding herself, and I noticed at this time the constant awareness she carried, the quiet vigilance that had replaced everything else in her life. "Ethan," she said gently, her voice softening in a way I had never heard directed at anyone else. "This is," she paused, just for a fraction of a second, and I saw the choice in her eyes, the careful selection of what to reveal and what to protect. "A friend," she finished, and something in my chest tightened. Not sharp, not painful, just a quiet acknowledgement of where I stood in his world, which was nowhere. Ethan nodded once, accepting it without question, then looked back at me. "Hi," he said simply, his voice calm, steady, and I felt something shift again, deeper this time, more permanent. "Hi," I replied, the word unfamiliar in my mouth in this context, stripped of authority, stripped of expectation, just a response, just human. And in that small exchange, I understood something I had not been prepared for. This was not about stepping into his life and reshaping it. This was about whether I could exist in it at all without breaking what she had spent 15 months building. And for the first time in my life, I was not thinking about how to win. I was thinking about how not to destroy something that had grown without me, something that now, whether I deserved it or not, was already part of who I was. The word lingered longer than it should have. Friend. I had been called many things in my life, most of them carrying weight, authority, consequence, but never something so simple, so easily accepted, and yet it settled in a place I did not expect, quiet and unresolved. Ethan did not question it. He did not look at Olivia for confirmation or hesitation. He just accepted what she gave him and turned back to me with the same steady gaze that had unsettled me from the beginning. "Do you work with my mom?" he asked, his voice light but thoughtful, like he was trying to place me into a category that made sense. I almost answered immediately, almost said yes. It would have been easier, cleaner, but something stopped me. "No," I said instead, my tone even, honest in a way I had not practiced in a long time. "I used to know her." Olivia's eyes flicked toward me for a fraction of a second, surprised not by the words, but by the choice behind them. Ethan nodded slowly, processing, then reached for the small paper cup in front of him, taking a careful sip like it was something important. The normalcy of it struck me harder than anything else. This was his world. Warm drinks, small questions, simple answers. No wait, no hidden cost. I leaned back slightly in the chair, allowing myself to observe instead of control. Olivia watched me carefully, not with fear, but with calculation, like she was measuring how much of me had changed and how much had not. "You should leave," she said quietly, not harsh, not emotional, just certain. I did not move, not immediately. My gaze shifted back to Ethan, then to her. "If I walk out now," I said slowly, choosing each word with more care than I ever had in a negotiation, "do I get to come back?" The question was simple. The answer was not. Olivia's expression tightened just enough to show she understood what I was really asking. Not permission, not control, access, presence, something I had never needed to request before. She looked at Ethan, her hand brushing lightly against his sleeve again, grounding herself in what mattered most. Then she looked back at me. "I do not know," she said honestly. And that was it. No conditions, no promises, just uncertainty. I nodded once, accepting it for what it was, because for the first time, I understood that forcing certainty into this would only break it. I stood slowly, the movement controlled, deliberate, but without the usual finality. "It was good to meet you, Ethan," I said, my voice steady, softer than anything I had used before in this life. He looked up at me again, studying my face like he was memorizing something he did not yet understand. Then he gave a small nod. "You too." 2 words. Simple, uncomplicated, and somehow, they stayed with me more than anything else in that room. I turned toward the door, feeling Olivia's gaze follow me, not stopping me, not calling me back, just watching. The bell chimed again as I stepped outside, the cool air hitting my face like a quiet reset. The car was still there, the city still moving. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. I paused for a moment before getting in, my hand resting briefly against the door as I looked back through the cafe window. Olivia was still sitting there, her hand now resting fully over Ethan's, her attention entirely on him, like the rest of the world had faded away again. I held that image for a second longer than necessary. Then I got into the car without saying a word. As we pulled away, I did not look back again. Not because I did not want to, but because I already knew this was not the end of something. This was the beginning of a question I had never had to answer before, and I was not sure yet if I was ready for what it would cost to answer it. I did not return to the penthouse right away. Instead, I told the driver to keep moving. No destination, just motion, because for the first time in years, sitting still felt more dangerous than anything outside the car. The city blurred past the window in familiar patterns, intersections I had memorized, buildings I owned, streets that shifted when I decided they should, but none of it felt the same now. Control had always been my language. Predictability, my advantage. But this was something I could not map out in advance. "You are quiet," my right hand noted from the front seat, his voice careful, measured, like he was stepping into territory he did not fully understand either. I did not answer immediately. I watched a father on the sidewalk instead, holding his daughter's hand as they crossed the street, her steps uneven, his pace adjusted without thought. Effortless, unspoken, natural. "I need a full risk assessment," I said finally, my voice returning to something sharper, more familiar, but not quite the same as before. "On them, not just location. Exposure, patterns, anyone who might be watching." He nodded once. No questions. He understood the shift. This was not about finding them anymore. It was about understanding what could reach them. Because Olivia had not been wrong. She had not left to hurt me. She had left to protect something I had not even known existed. And now that I did, that responsibility did not feel optional. It felt immediate. We stopped at a red light. I leaned back slightly, closing my eyes for a brief second, and the image came back without effort. Ethan at the table. The way he looked at me. Not afraid, not impressed, just aware. Like he saw something in me that no one else ever acknowledged. And that unsettled me more than anything else ever had. "Sir," my right hand said again, quieter this time. "If she did not tell you, there is a reason she believed this was the only way." I opened my eyes slowly. "I know," I replied. And I did. That was the problem. I understood her logic too well. The world I built did not allow for innocence to exist without consequence. It did not allow for someone like Ethan to grow up untouched by it. Not if he was connected to me. The light turned green. The car moved forward. I exhaled slowly, then reached for the folder beside me, flipping it open again. But this time, I was not looking for information. I was looking for patterns. Schools nearby, routines, safe routes, blind spots, the things I usually exploited. Now I was mapping them to avoid them. "Pull over," I said suddenly. The car stopped near a quiet block, a few blocks away from where I had seen them earlier. I stepped out before anyone could ask why. The air felt different here. Slower, lighter, no tension hiding beneath the surface. Just ordinary life moving without expectation. I walked a short distance, my eyes scanning without appearing to, until I saw it. A small playground tucked between 2 buildings. Nothing impressive, just a few swings, a slide, a bench. And him. Ethan stood near the edge, watching other children play, not rushing to join, not pulling away either. Just observing, learning. Olivia sat on the bench nearby, her posture relaxed but her attention constant, tracking every movement without looking like she was. I stayed far enough away to remain unseen, but close enough to understand something I had missed before. He was not isolated. He was choosing his pace, his space, just like I did. And that realization settled deeper than anything else. Because it was not just his eyes. It was the way he existed in the world. I stood there longer than I should have, watching a life I had never been part of unfold in quiet, ordinary moments. No power, no fear, just time moving forward. And for the first time, I understood what Olivia had been protecting. Not just him, but this normalcy, this chance for him to grow without being shaped by everything I represented. My jaw tightened slightly, not in anger, but in clarity, because now I saw it fully. If I stepped into his life the way I had always stepped into everything else, I would destroy the very thing she had sacrificed everything to build. And that left me with something I had never had to consider before. Not whether I could take control, but whether I could learn to stay out of it long enough to deserve a place in it at all. I did not step closer. That was the first decision I made without hesitation. I stayed where I was, just outside the edge of his world, watching without interrupting, learning without changing anything, because now I understood that presence, in my case, was not neutral. It carried weight whether I wanted it to or not. Ethan moved after a while, slowly at first, then with more confidence, stepping toward the other children, not forcing himself in, just finding a place among them that felt natural. I watched the way he adapted without losing himself, the way he spoke only when needed, the way he observed before he acted. It was not something he had been taught directly. It was instinct, and that realization stayed with me longer than anything else. Olivia noticed me before I realized she had. Her gaze lifted from Ethan and found me across the distance, steady, unshaken, like she had been expecting me to return even if she had told me to leave. She did not stand. She did not call out. She just watched, measuring the distance I chose to keep, and for a moment, something unspoken passed between us. Not approval, not rejection, just recognition. I gave a slight nod, almost imperceptible, not as a claim, not as a demand, just an acknowledgement that I understood what she had been protecting. She looked away first, her attention returning to Ethan as if nothing had happened, and that told me more than words ever could. I stayed a little longer, long enough to see Ethan laugh at something another child said, a small, genuine sound that did not belong in the world I had built. It was light, uncomplicated, free, and I realized then that this was the first time I had ever seen something of mine exist without the shadow of what I am. That thought did not make me proud. It made me careful. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a quiet reminder that my world had not paused just because I had. I glanced at the screen but did not answer. Not yet. Not here. I let it go silent, then turned my attention back to the playground one last time, committing the scene to memory in a way I had never done before. Not as leverage, not as information, but as something I needed to protect without touching. When I finally stepped back, it was slow, deliberate, like I was leaving something fragile behind me. I did not want to disrupt it. I did not want to alter it just by being too close. As I walked away, I understood something that changed the way I saw everything that came next. This was not a situation I could approach the way I had approached everything else in my life. There would be no sudden moves, no forced outcomes, no claiming what was mine simply because I had the power to do so. Because if I did, I would lose the only thing that mattered before I even had the chance to understand it. I reached the car, but did not get in right away. Instead, I rested my hand against the door and looked back once more, not at Olivia this time, but at Ethan. He had not noticed me leave. He was still in his own world, still untouched by mine. And for the first time, I made a decision that went against everything I had ever been. I would not enter his life as Sebastian Hale, the man who controlled everything he touched. I would enter it carefully, quietly, on his terms, not mine. Because if I wanted to be part of that world, I would have to become someone who knew how to stand in it without breaking it. And as I finally got into the car, closing the door with a soft, controlled motion, I understood that this was no longer about whether I could take my place in his life. It was about whether I could change enough to deserve one. The next time I saw him, it was not by accident. It was intentional, controlled, but different from before. I stood outside the small school building at 3 in the afternoon, blending into a line of parents who checked their watches and held coffee cups, their lives measured in routines instead of decisions that reshaped entire cities. I did not belong here. That much was obvious. But for the first time, I did not try to change that. I let it be what it was. The bell rang, sharp and familiar, and children poured out of the doors in waves of noise and motion. I did not move. I watched, waiting, learning. Then I saw him. Ethan stepped out slower than the others, his backpack slightly oversized against his small frame, his gaze scanning the crowd not with anxiety, but with quiet awareness. Just like before, he spotted Olivia almost immediately. Of course he did. Some connections do not require effort. She raised her hand slightly, a small gesture, and his expression shifted, not dramatically, just enough to show recognition, comfort, certainty. I felt it again, that quiet shift inside my chest that I was still learning how to understand. This was what I had missed. Not a moment, not a detail, an entire life. I stepped forward before I could overthink it, my movement deliberate but not imposing, just enough to close the distance without disrupting the rhythm of everything around me. Olivia noticed me first. Her posture changed, subtle but immediate, her awareness sharpening as her eyes met mine across the crowd. She did not look surprised. She looked prepared. Ethan followed her gaze, and this time, when his eyes found me, something was different. Recognition, not full understanding, but something closer to it. I stopped a few feet away, keeping the same distance as before, the same unspoken boundary I had learned not to cross. "Hi," I said again, the word still unfamiliar in this context, but steadier now. Ethan tilted his head slightly, studying me the same way he had in the cafe, then gave a small nod. "Hi," he replied, like we were continuing a conversation that had not fully ended. Olivia's gaze moved between us, measuring, calculating, but not intervening. "Not yet. You came back," she said quietly, her voice carrying more weight than the words themselves. I held her gaze for a moment before answering. "I said I would not make sudden moves," I replied. "This is not one." She studied me, searching for something beneath the surface, something familiar, something dangerous. But whatever she expected to find, it was not there in the same way anymore. Ethan shifted his weight slightly, then looked up at me again. "Are you going to come tomorrow too?" he asked, the question simple, direct, without hesitation. I felt it then. The moment, everything changed. Not because of what he asked, but because of how easily he asked it. Like I already existed in his world just enough to return. I did not answer right away. Not because I did not know what to say, but because I understood what my answer would mean. Not power, not control, commitment, presence. Something I had never offered without expecting something in return. I lowered myself slightly, just enough to meet his eye level, keeping my voice calm, steady, real. "If it is okay with your mom," I said. Olivia inhaled softly beside him, barely noticeable to anyone else, but I caught it. That moment of hesitation. That shift between protecting what she had built and recognizing what was already beginning to form. She looked at Ethan, then back at me, her eyes holding something more complicated than before. Not fear, not resistance, something closer to consideration. Then she nodded once. Small, careful, but real. Ethan smiled. Not wide, not exaggerated, just enough. And that was it. No declarations, no dramatic change. Just a small moment that settled into place like it had been waiting for us to reach it. I stood back up slowly, my gaze moving between them, understanding something with absolute clarity for the first time. I had built an empire that answered to my name. But this would never belong to me unless I learned how to earn it. And as we stood there, in the middle of an ordinary afternoon that held more weight than any deal I had ever made, I realized something I could not ignore. This was not about reclaiming what was mine. This was about becoming someone who could be chosen to stay.